In 1926, we encounter a young and brilliant J. Robert Oppenheimer, merely 22 years old. Eager to make his mark in the scientific world, he finds himself far from home, studying at the prestigious Cavendish Laboratory in Cambridge, England, under the guidance of the demanding scientist, Patrick Blackett. This separation from loved ones leaves Oppenheimer feeling intensely homesick and anxious. The rigorous and challenging laboratory environment only adds to his unease, making it difficult for him to adapt to this new life. Oppenheimer's discontent with Blackett's demanding nature steadily grows, leading him to consider an act of rebellion or perhaps a coping mechanism. In a moment of impulse, he decides to play a dangerous prank on his professor, leaving a seemingly harmless but secretly poisoned apple on Blackett's desk, intending to give him a taste of his own medicine. However, fate takes a dark turn, as Oppenheimer learns to his shock and horror that Niels Bohr, another renowned scientist visiting the laboratory, nearly consumes the tainted apple by accident. The incident sends a shiver down Oppenheimer's spine as he realizes the potential consequences of his reckless actions. Acting on Bohr's advice, Oppenheimer leaves Cambridge for the prestigious University of Göttingen in Germany, immersing himself in the heart of theoretical physics in Europe. Under the mentorship of luminaries like Werner Heisenberg and Enrico Fermi, Oppenheimer gains respect and recognition in the scientific community. With quantum physics as his passion, he returns to America, becoming a professor at Berkeley University, where he strives to advance the field by forming a class known as Oppie's Boys, with Ernest Lawrence, played by Josh Hartnett. Oppenheimer's life takes a dramatic turn as politics begins to intertwine with his academic pursuits. The rise of Nazi influence in World War II fuels his involvement with politics, and hidden aspects of his identity as a Jewish man come to the forefront. Jean, a psychology student at Berkeley and a member of the Communist Party, becomes a significant influence on J. Robert Oppenheimer's life. With the backdrop of World War II and the fight against Hitler and the Nazis, being associated with the Communist Party was not uncommon during those times. The party advocated for fair wages, aiding refugees, and standing against fascism, causes that Oppenheimer also supported, even contributing money to the Spanish war effort. Jean introduces Oppenheimer to the communist cause, and he willingly embraces their ideals, though not becoming a full-fledged member. Oppenheimer's love for Jean complicates his relationships, both personally and professionally. His friendship with Chevalier and his romantic involvement with Jean become major obstacles during his later trial. Additionally, his brother Frank's affiliation with the Communist Party adds more fuel for the U.S. government to use against him. The influence of communist ideas seeps into Oppenheimer's classroom, with Ernest Lawrence criticizing him for bringing left-wing political views into scientific discussions. Despite his growing connections to the communists, Oppenheimer's perspective portrays his actions as more moderate, and he eventually breaks up with Jean. Amidst these tumultuous relationships, Oppenheimer crosses paths with Emily Blunt's Kitty, who had also left the Communist Party. It becomes evident that Kitty is the woman destined to be with him, and the two get married after spending time together in both the US and New Mexico. This marks a turning point as the Manhattan Project is formed in response to the imminent threat of the Nazis completing their atomic bomb. Theory alone is no longer enough, and the project represents a crucial shift in Oppenheimer's life and the course of history. In the embrace of her marriage to J. Robert, Kitty finds herself confined within the walls of her home, grappling with the suffocating expectations of domestic life. She admires her husband's brilliance, yet fears the potential repercussions it might have on their family's harmony. Oppenheimer realizes that theory alone will not suffice and that he must get involved in the war effort. As his groundbreaking work on black holes is published, the invasion of Poland by Hitler overshadows it, highlighting the urgency of the situation. A scientific breakthrough reveals the potential of nuclear fission, leading to fears that the Nazis could harness its power and develop an atomic bomb. Leslie Groves, head of the National Defense Research Council's Nuclear Development Project, recognizes Oppenheimer's capabilities and appoints him to lead the Manhattan Project. Despite initial government reservations about Oppenheimer's radical ties, Groves pushes for his involvement, and Oppenheimer takes charge of designing the bomb. They select an isolated mesa in Los Alamos, New Mexico, as the project's location, where leading physicists, including Oppenheimer's students, gather to work towards the common goal of creating the atomic bomb before the Nazis. Oppenheimer carries a heavy burden as he faces the immense challenge before him. The ethical implications of developing a weapon of mass destruction weighed on his conscience. In seeking solace and guidance, he confides in his close friend and fellow scientist, Albert Einstein. Together, they contemplate the far-reaching consequences of unleashing such a powerful force upon the world. As the project advances, Oppenheimer's moral quandary grows even more profound, presenting an ever more challenging dilemma that refuses to fade away with time. Oppenheimer's leadership during the Manhattan Project is put to the test. While secrecy is paramount to the military, Oppenheimer believes that a degree of openness is necessary for effective scientific work. This creates tensions with excessive security measures and surveillance, which leads to complaints from scientists. Despite the challenges, Oppenheimer maintains a delicate balance between the military and the scientific community, ensuring the progress of the project. Edward Teller's proposal to use hydrogen as a bomb material becomes a point of contention. Oppenheimer dismisses the idea, arguing for a more measured approach. His persuasive abilities prevent Teller from leaving Los Alamos, promising him dedicated lab time. By keeping the scientists and the military content, Oppenheimer ensures a productive work environment. Through multiple implosion tests and design iterations, the Manhattan Project team achieves what once seemed impossible: the creation of an atomic bomb. Oppenheimer's leadership and dedication to the cause prove instrumental in this race against time. As the Manhattan Project progresses, the scientists face the challenge of creating an atomic bomb that could be controlled. They develop two designs, Fat Man and Little Boy, with uncertainty surrounding their potentially catastrophic consequences. The looming risk of igniting the atmosphere and destroying life on Earth weighs heavily on their minds. The project's moral implications intensify as discussions arise about using the bomb on Japan, especially after learning of Hitler's death and Germany's surrender. Oppenheimer fosters openness, encouraging debates on the dangers of nuclear power and justifications for deploying the weapon. Amidst these deliberations, Oppenheimer faces personal tragedy when his former lover, Jen Tatlock, is found dead under mysterious circumstances, adding to the turmoil. The scientists gather at the Trinity site to perform the historic atomic bomb test. As the countdown reaches its climax, Ludwig Göransson's intense score builds suspense until the blinding flash of light fills the screen, witnessed from multiple perspectives around the bunker. Oppenheimer's recitation of the "I am become death, the destroyer of worlds" scripture adds to the gravity of the moment, followed by the awe-inspiring shockwave. The successful test brings relief and cheers among the scientists, but their reactions soon shift as they realize the destructive potential they've unleashed. Truman, the newly inaugurated President of the United States, faces a momentous decision as he orders the deployment of atomic bombs on the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The devastating consequences of these bombings weigh heavily on Oppenheimer's conscience, thrusting him into the spotlight as the father of the atomic bomb. In the aftermath of these catastrophic events, the world grapples with the immense impact, making Oppenheimer a symbol of both scientific achievement and moral dilemma. Haunted by the immense suffering caused by the bombs, Oppenheimer personally urges Truman to exercise restraint in the further development of even more powerful nuclear weapons. However, Truman, burdened by the weight of leadership and political pressures, struggles to fully comprehend Oppenheimer's impassioned pleas. Despite his advocacy against further nuclear advancement, particularly the hydrogen bomb, Oppenheimer finds himself in conflict with Edward Teller, a fervent advocate of nuclear weaponry. The aftermath of the bombings in Japan leads to a change in the perception of atomic weapons. While the majority of the U.S. supports their use in Japan, Oppenheimer and some scientists at Los Alamos begin to fear the consequences of a nuclear world. During Oppenheimer's victory speech, the film delves into his internal struggle. He congratulates the team's efforts, but in his mind, he envisions the horrifying consequences of the bomb, including the incineration of children and people being burnt. This powerful scene conveys the horror these weapons can inflict and significantly impacts Oppenheimer's perspective on further nuclear development, particularly the hydrogen bomb and the escalating arms race. We witness Oppenheimer's sense of responsibility for introducing nuclear weapons and his determination to influence their future use. As chairman of the General Advisory Committee, he urged the U.S. to share information about the Manhattan Project with the Soviets to prevent an arms race. However, the government rejected his plea and pushed for more control. In a powerful scene with President Truman, Oppenheimer reveals his inner turmoil, feeling burdened with guilt and blood on his hands. Truman dismissively calls him a crybaby scientist. Oppenheimer's attempts to halt further bomb development falter amidst a toxic political climate, especially when Edward Teller continues working on the hydrogen bomb. Lewis Strauss's vendetta against Oppenheimer becomes evident as the trial centers around his communist connections rather than his stance on the hydrogen bomb. The defense includes individuals like Kitty, who truly understands him, while Teller testifies against him, outraged by Oppenheimer's opposition to the hydrogen bomb. As Oppenheimer's celebrity scientist persona crumbles, the U.S. government seizes the opportunity to discredit and destroy him. The prosecution constructs evidence against J. Robert Oppenheimer, focusing on an incident from the 1940s when his friend Chevalier tried to get him to share information about the bomb project with the Soviets. Although Oppenheimer refused at the time, he chose not to disclose the incident or Chevalier's involvement to the government, protecting his friend. Combined with other connections to communist members and his affair with Jeanne Tatlock, this became damning evidence. The trial takes a toll on Oppenheimer and Kitty, with the prosecution scrutinizing every aspect of their lives. Despite many speaking in his defense, the security board votes against maintaining his clearance, alleging bad judgment. Oppenheimer goes into exile, but eventually, McCarthyism wanes, and the U.S. awards him the Enrico Fermi Award for Excellence in Nuclear Research. The film also delves into another hearing focusing on Oppenheimer's appointment as U.S. Secretary of Commerce, revealing Lewis Strauss's vendetta stemming from past humiliation and paranoia. Despite the passage of time and the nation's progress, Oppenheimer's conscience remains burdened by the scars of the past. A revelation during this period unveils deeper insights into his past discussions with Einstein, exposing the profound and existential implications of nuclear weapons. Now, Oppenheimer is left grappling with the far-reaching repercussions of the Trinity test, wondering if their scientific endeavors had unintentionally set in motion a dangerous sequence of events that could potentially lead to a catastrophic nuclear holocaust. While the world currently praises him for his contributions, Einstein cautions that eventually, the same world may shun him. This serves as a foreshadowing of the challenges to come. Their conversation shifts to the atomic bomb itself and its potentially catastrophic implications. Oppenheimer expresses his concern about the possibility of the bomb triggering a chain reaction, leading to the ignition of the Earth's atmosphere. The weight of the bomb's immense destructive power looms heavily on Oppenheimer's conscience. A brief visual of a nuclear silo highlights the grim reality of the world's nuclear arsenal. The film then masterfully concludes with Oppenheimer gazing at a serene pond, revealing the haunting image of Earth being destroyed in a nuclear war. Blasts spread across the planet, leaving a lasting impact on the audience. This apocalyptic vision serves as a stark reminder of the potential devastation that nuclear weapons pose to humanity.